With more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the author and public policy expert, Oseloka Obaze, who's a member of the Labour Party and is the principal advisor to Peter Obi. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Charles.
What a delight to see you.
Always a pleasure to be here.
First of all, we know that you are a principal advisor to Peter Obi, but are you a fully fledged card-carrying member of the Labour Party? Because some questions have been raised about whether you've actually picked up your Labour Party membership card.
That answer is in the affirmative. I am a card-carrying member of the Labour Party, and I left the PDP in May, resigned properly, and joined the Labour Party.
Okay, so that clears the air on that.
Course.
How big a moment is this in Nigerian politics? Some have suggested that this is one of the biggest moments since the return of democracy in 1999. Is it?
It is. It's phenomenal. Nothing of the sort has happened in this country. And in as much as some people would like to see this as a fluke, it is not. We've had all manners of characterization of the unfolding process, but the reality, I think, is beginning to dawn on each and every one of us. 200 and odd million Nigerians. The groundswell is just phenomenal, nothing like that. And I think it's real, it's tangible, it's palpable, you can feel it.
But you don't have a real measure of it, though, do you? There's no scientific measure. You haven't had opinion polls.
We've done opinion polls. We've done opinion polls
right.
in-house, and we're not going to share it because it's just going to create problems for the other people, and they're going to find ways to either try to discredit.
Well, I would have thought you would want to create problems for the other people.
No. Well, we're in a situation where our strategy for the process of rescuing this country is not one we're going to put out in the field.
Right.
Well, so it's just a practical consideration.
Okay, let me put it this way then. Let me ask you to put into perspective for us what Peter Obi has accomplished so far in his quest to be president. Because even though he hasn't won, and may not in fact win, he's broadened the scope of Nigerian elections, hasn't he? He's brought greater diversity into Nigerian politics and has become this figure that'll be spoken about in years to come.
There are two things. The first responsibility of a citizen is to vote and decide who's going to lead you. The second responsibility is to hold that government accountable. This is something that has been denied Nigerians. And all of a sudden they found the voice. The groundswell is about Nigerians fighting for their rights that have been denied, fighting to find a way to recover all those unmet needs that fall under the rubric of responsibility to protect. Government is no longer protecting. A broad swath of this country is ungoverned spaces. The insecurity is rife. It's unconscionable that we live in a country where the tertiary institutions will be locked down for 6 months and the government is not really doing anything. Is it a failure of the ability to negotiate collaboratively? And nobody's answering that question. It wouldn't happen in any other country. So those people who have been disenfranchised, the parents of the 18 million out of school children, the parents of university graduates that are taking more than 4 years to graduate, which is the norm, and those who have graduated and are unemployed. They've all taken up, literally, the verbal arms to say, we want a change in this country. This phenomenon is greater than Peter Obi. He's just a special purpose vehicle for the rescue and the redefinition of Nigeria. He's a means to a new trend in nation building. I listened to your introduction. It's like the ruling party APC wants to take over from APC. They have to run on their record, and the record is dismal. So the Nigerians are looking and saying, no, we don't trust the other parties.
Right.
We are going to find somebody else who is going to lead us out of Egypt.
And in that context, can Peter Obi be described as a pioneering politician, even though we know he's been around the block a few times himself?
Peter Obi is a mainstream politician. I don't know about pioneering. There are people who've been in politics longer than he is. But his mindset, his attitude to governance is totally different. That's what sets him apart from his counterparts. And I think that's what he brings. What has happened is this. For the first time in Nigeria, somebody is speaking the language the masses understand. And there's been an effort to characterize this as a social media phenomenon. But if you watch what happened in Port Harcourt yesterday, in Auchi, in Makurudi, those people are not on Twitter. They are on the streets. It also happened in Onitsha. And in some states, the right of peaceful assembly is being denied to Nigerians. We're in a democracy, and nobody is speaking to that. There's a whole lot that's happened here in terms of diminution of civil liberties, in terms of right of existence, and in terms of addressing the needs of the common man in this country. And those things need to be addressed. We need to bring back the debate to a robust level where we can talk about national interest questions and not sectional interest questions. And that's what it is all about.
So does he come into the 2023 election as both an admired politician, beloved at least by a particular demographic, as well as an underdog?
Well, underdog, yes, in the sense that the Labour Party, our party, is not in terms of scope and size and having been entrenched in government anywhere comparable to PDP, my former party, or to the APC. But if you look at the global phenomenon, in Malawi, in Zambia, in France, underdogs have won. And why is that possible? Because the people yearn for new leadership, and they see P2B as offering Nigeria that possibility in their lifetime.
So, I mean, I don't mean to put a damper on your, analysis there, but practically and realistically speaking, I mean, beyond the, the phenomenon that he has clearly become and the popularity that he appears to enjoy with a particular demographic, possibly a wider demographic, how far can he get in this 2023 political tournament? Could he go on a magical run, or could it be a clear loss?
Politics is a game of numbers. The demographics you talk about does not represent just the adults alone. It does not represent the women alone. It represents the totality of the Nigerian electorate. Everybody who is a PVC holding member of this community. The question is, will they come out to vote? Now, if we can marshal them to come out to vote, and if the elections are not tampered with, the result will surprise everybody, because you cannot vote for a government that has not taken care of your interest. You cannot vote for a government who's been out for 8 years or 16 years, as the case may be, and coming to tell you, this is what we will do for you.
But that's been the practice in this country.
Well, that practice is about to change, and for good reasons. Nigerians are tired. Nigerians are hungry. Look, I think I've been on this show before, and I told you that one of the new parameters used by a consultancy in Lagos to measure how bad things are is called the jollof rice index. That what used to cost you 2,000 naira to cook a pot of jollof rice that would feed a family of 4 is costing you 20,000 naira now. So there's hunger. Moreover, this is a government that has not negotiated in good faith the minimum wage. There's been no salary increase here for the people. So the rich and the non-existent middle class and the lower class buy from the same market. So people are aggrieved because they're hungry, they're aggrieved because they're tired, they're aggrieved because there's a distrust gap between the people and the ruling government. And they're not going to go back, or rather, to use a cliche, they're not going to go from frying pan to fire. And they're not going to go back after they've suffered. You don't get rid of one yoke that has disenfranchised you to return to the same yoke or to another. You look for hope where you can find it. And the Nigerians have found hope in the Labour Party. They have found hope in Peter Obi, and I think that's the only way to go.
But I could transpose these words that you're using now with respect to you, because you're a very articulate person, and perhaps no one can quite say it the way that you do. But I could take something similar and put it back to 2014, 2015. The same hope that people placed on President Buhari when he was coming into office. The same, across the country, people inspired and wanting this dramatic change, and then he comes in and he lets them. Well, the impression is that he's let them down. I mean, do you see that sort of scenario? Do you see the fact that Nigerian people have got to the point where many feel that it doesn't matter, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't?
Not really. Except if you want to indulge yourself in some form of escapism. Hunger knows no tribe. Insecurity knows no tribe.
Yeah, but Nigeria was insecure in 2015.
It's gotten far worse. It's gotten far worse, and you know that. You're resident here in Abuja. I can't remember the last time Abuja felt so insecure as it is now. But that is not even the issue. Charles, what is the issue is this? This country is blessed, endowed with enormous human resource capital, endowed with enormous natural resources, and we are by and large not a poor country. But because the leadership has been by and large inept, and because policies have not been handled the way they're supposed to have been handled, we found ourselves in this conundrum, in this quagmire, and the question is, who will rescue the people of Nigeria from this mess?
Well, the part of the problem is that we're hearing you very articulately assessing the problems of Nigeria, but you're not offering solutions.
You haven't asked me about the solutions.
What I'm saying is,
asked me about the question, the problems.
Well, I've asked you broadly.
Yes.
You could take whichever way you want to take. I mean, the point really is that we all know that there's inflation. We know there's an energy crisis. We know there's a food crisis. But what is the solution? How are you going to solve the problem when there's very little money left in Nigeria? The money we use to service our debt has exceeded our revenue.
Charles, as I speak to you, my principal, Mr. Peter Obi, has just left Canada, heading to California. What is he doing? He's engaging the Nigerian diaspora. If you know, and if the government cares to admit, in the last months or last years, diaspora remittances in this country has far exceeded revenue from oil. They're not discussing that. So what is he doing? He's engaging people who have the prospect to bring in resources into this country that are not loans. We're not borrowing. When diaspora remittances come in here, you're not paying service debt. The last count, 20 billion. Our projection is that we can do as much as 60 billion in diaspora remittances. And it outstrips the foreign direct investment that we get from other people. It outstrips the official development assistance that we get from other countries. These are Nigerians who are willing to give back to their country. So why don't you tap into it? That's something the government of the day hasn't done efficiently.
Okay, go on, finish what you have to say.
But coming back to your question, first, there are two tracks as to what Peter Obi and Baba Ahmed needs to do.
Okay, let me just put this question in before you answer that, because we haven't got that much time left, but it'll be related to the answer you're going to give. We're getting questions coming in, someone asking what will Peter Obi be doing differently from his competitors in terms of turning around the economic fortunes of this country. What will he be doing to create jobs, fix the power sector, and also, the thing just went over here, fix the power sector, resolve crude oil theft, address the fiscal crisis, as well as the foreign exchange crisis, and what will he be doing about security? So try and wrap that up if you can.
It's good these questions came in. These questions are actually not for Peter Obi. They are indictments of the aimed at the government of the day.
Yeah, but
they're not doing all this. First, I was going to say this. We need to secure this country. The breadbasket of this country, the arable lands of the north, are decimated by violence and insurgency. We need to take them back and return the farmers. Peter Obi once said that the new oil, the new gold for Nigeria are the arable lands in the north. Where we used to have mechanized farming. The people have gone to camps, IDP camps. So we need to secure the country. We also need to unite the country. He is committed to one unified Nigeria. This country has never been polarized as it is now, except perhaps for the Civil War years. So that's the first trajectory. And then, of course, in governance, economics, the cliche says, cut your coat according to your according to your cloth. There's been enormous wastage in this country. Let's take, for instance, the oil sector. We have 3 refineries that have not produced refined fuel in the last couple of years, and people are employed, people are being paid. We're spending enormous amount of money buying fuel, doing fuel subsidy. We need to cut the cost of governance. That is something Peter Obi is good at.
So you need a more prudent manager, basically.
Prudent management,
right.
And we are not bereft of resources. Let's be honest about it. Our resources have just not been managed properly, and that's one area he has a proven track record, and that's the first thing we have to look at.
What about security?
Well, security, the security architecture in this country exists. The defining and governing policy documents also exist. What you need to do is to train, equip, and actually improve the morale of the security agencies.
But that's going to take time.
And also ensure that there's synergy and complementarity. You have the army, you have the air force, you have the police, you have the DSS. They are all security agencies, but you have to establish who has a comparative advantage in each sector of what you need to do. The so-called compartmentalization of security is an issue, and that is why when we had militancy in the Niger Delta, everybody thought it was a Niger Delta problem until the oil theft started and it became a big problem. When we had Boko Haram in the northeast, everybody thought it was a northeast problem until it started festering. When we had banditry in Zamfara and the other parts of the northwest, they thought it was a northwest problem. When we had farmers' headers clash, nobody thought of the fact that that would impact negatively on food production. So a basket of tomatoes that comes out of Bornu, sell for 2,000, is selling for 18,000 now.
Right.
Something has to give. Bring people around the table. We have competent, well-trained, professional soldiers in this country. They must be allowed to do their work. And by the way, we also must allow the police to do its work. We should no longer use the military for strictly civilian police duties. We must empower the police and trust them and make the police, once again, as efficient as they ought to be.
Well, let me put it this way. You've got your work cut out for you.
Certainly.
I want to thank you very much indeed. Oseloka Obaze, who's a member of the Labour Party and is the principal advisor to Peter Obi.